Hello, welcome to Steven Shinder Reviews in video form with day 11 of Chucktober. This time reviewing Chucky Season 1, Episode 4, Just Let Go, released November 2nd, 2021. This is directed by Leslie Libman, and I had to look up what else Leslie has directed. Looks like some music videos and some TV stuff. Um, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, Forever Live and Die. That sounds, wonder what that is. See, Bee Gees, You Win Again. Bee Gees, Ordinary Lives. And now we got the Oz TV series, 2 episodes of that. Yeah, this is a long list. Jake 2.0, don't know what that is, but feels kind of relevant to mention that here. An episode of the L Word, Num 3ers, or maybe people pronounce it numbers, 2 episodes of that. Um, the Tomorrow People, Vampire Diaries, which did get a mention on this show on Chucky. Like, Jake loves watching Vampire Diaries, and he and Devin talked a little bit about it. Um, let's see, Brittany Ever After, that's a TV movie. Probably got a really low score there on IMDb. Chicago Fire, uh, NCIS, 18 episodes of that. So, yeah, quite a long resume on here for Leslie Libman. And then this was also written by Mallory Westfall and Kim Garland. So, Mallory Westfall has written some other things, including um, has a written by and or executive story editor credit on 17 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead from 2019 to 2020. I'm actually going to be getting back into watching that show, season 8, which I believe is the final season. Gonna go ahead and try finishing that. It's a strange show. It started out as one thing and then became another thing midway through, and it's like, why don't you rename the show at that point? But Lenny James is in that, and it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Lenny James. And Kim Garland has also worked on some other things, including being a story editor and or writer on The Imperfects, 10 episodes, 2022. And that was a Netflix series. Apparently it's about 20 somethings who get turned into monsters. And I don't remember hearing about this show, but it got canceled after one season, which might not be surprising to hear, but apparently it got positive reception. So, yeah, Just Let Go. So this episode begins uh, pretty much right after the previous one. The aftermath of Lexi's house getting set on fire. Her little sister Caroline, as well as Junior, are in the ICU. And so Lexi is super worried about her little sister, and her parents, um, they are like, oh, all of a sudden you care about her, and basically blaming her for the party. And she's trying to say that she didn't start the fire. And Junior, also, he ends up later on, they have to put this thing in his throat and put him to sleep, and he sings a song that goes like, "We got the beat, we got the beat." So, I guess we see a little bit of Junior and Lexi having the singing thing in common, but yeah, Lexi, we really do see a bit of a softer side of her, but we still see how mean she is. It feels like this episode is very much a transitional episode for her. When Jake goes to the hospital, the ICU, whatever, he is asked by her like about the Chucky doll, and he basically reveals that he sent Chucky to go after her for the mean things that she said, and she is really taken aback by this, and understandably so. Someone just sent a monster to go kill you, but I feel like she's also not reflecting enough on the bad things that she did to Jake and how terrible of a person she is. So I feel that both Lexi and Jake are at fault here for different things, and it's like no, neither of them are perfect here. They've made some grave mistakes, and Lex even makes a point that you knew that Chucky doll was alive, and you gave it to my sister, and it's like, yeah, that is a real messed up thing to do. Hand a monster over to a little girl, no matter the risk. And like Jake barely knows Chucky and what Chucky might do. And so, meanwhile, Devin is doing research on the Chucky doll, and he finds this urban legend website, and there are these little blurbs from articles about Chucky and about Tiffany and about Nika having escaped Harrogate. And what's really goofy is that during this it shows screenshots from the movies Bride of Chucky and Cult of Chucky. It's really silly when movies and TV shows do that. um, I even saw a post about that recently. Like, who was taking the picture during that scene in that TV episode? Like a different TV show. Like, it's not just exclusive to Chucky, it's happened in other things. But I just like to think that this isn't literally how the website looks. Like, I think the pictures are just for the audience. Because we don't see the view of the actual site. It's like they kind of pop up in front of us, kind of like text messages in TV shows. So I think it's just for the audience, and the whatever website this is doesn't literally have those images. At least that's what I like to think. Um, and so Lexi, she is told by Jake that nobody's gonna believe her about Chucky. Like, people have been put away for claiming that Chucky is alive or worse, and which is fair point. That happened to Karen and Nika, and beyond that, lots of people have died from trying to tell Chucky's secret. And uh, yeah, Lexi is really worried about her little sister, and eventually, there's also this really compelling confrontation between the parents. Lexi's parents and Junior's parents. They uh, throw words at each other, throw the blame and whatnot about how, why do you leave Lexi unsupervised? And oh well, Junior was there too, and the issue of the pressures of cross country being put on Junior when perhaps that isn't something that he wants to do. And later on, Junior's father Logan asks him if it's something he does just because his dad wants him to, and Junior's like, "No, I love cross country," which he doesn't answer very convincingly, and it really feels like Logan wants Junior to be a specific way. Like, he really wants him to be into cross country and is hoping he'll say that he is. Like, I don't get the sense that if Junior had said, "I hate cross country," that his dad would have been understanding right away. But yeah, the parents get into a little bit of a brawl, but Kim, Devin's mother, she breaks them up and reveals that Oliver was killed not by the fire but by stab wounds, and so she says to keep yourselves and your kids close so for questioning. But of course, the kids do not all remain close by, as Lexi talks to Jake, and they decide to team up and go back to the house and look for Chucky just in case he has not been destroyed by the fire. And uh, so this is a really weird thing that happens. So they decide to head over to the house, and as they're walking down the hallway in the ICU, Lexi says, God, I need a shower. And then we see them arriving at the house, and Lexi's wearing a completely different outfit. So I kind of wonder if the I need a shower line was ADR'd, like added in post production as a way of explaining why she has different clothes. Like they stopped somewhere so she could shower and change or something. And behind the scenes, I feel like maybe these scenes were shot maybe out of order, and then it was too late for them to realize like when they're supposed to take place in relation to each other, and the different outfits. Maybe at some point this was supposed to be a different day or not just hours after something. That I don't know. I feel like something happened behind the scenes that allowed for this mistake to fall through the cracks. But I do like the song that plays when they arrive. It's like do 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 do, lose control, do 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 do. Like I really like the music choices throughout this show. I don't know, it's just such a vibe. So while they are investigating, um, I feel like there's something else that happens. Oh yeah, so Devin was doing research on Chucky, and we get this flashback to 1972. Charles Lee Ray is like 14, 15, around Jake's age. I feel like they the actor who plays him here, like his hair looks similar to Jake's a little bit, but also feels like a mix between what Charles Lee Ray's hair would later look like, and maybe a little bit of how Chucky the doll's hair sometimes looks. And I can't really explain it, but something about the way that this teenage Charles Lee Ray, the way that he walks around, and um, something about that and something about his outfit feel very reminiscent of the way Chucky the doll is and how he moves around. And so this felt very convincing as a younger iteration of Charles Lee Ray. So it shows him in a foster home in the 70s. And speaking of 70s, today's 50th anniversary of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the wide US release anyway. But yeah, so this is 72, and he's in a foster home and reading Peter Pan to some of the kids there. And from what I've heard, the original story is kind of dark. Like he reads the part about, the kids are growing older, and when that happens, they have to be thinned out. And the foster parents who are around, they think um, that Charles is a sweet boy and that there's nothing, they don't suspect anything wrong about him. But of course, we see him leading the kids. They're playing pretend, and um, that they're going after Captain Hook. And after walking quite a long way, they arrive at this corpse of the janitor um, who had offended Charles earlier. Like earlier, Charles had accidentally stepped on where the guy was mopping, and then the guy used his mop on Charles's only shoes, and that got him really mad. And so Charles took care of the janitor and even removed his hand and replaced it with a hook. And he's like, "It's Captain Hook. We got him." And most of the kids run away, scared. But one of them, a boy, stays behind, gets a stick, and pokes the maggot covered body. And I think Charles even says here, "You've got guts, kid." So the thing that the intruder had told him back in 65 has stuck with him. And you see the grin on Charles's face, and I really like the effect that happens here, where the Chucky doll phase is transposed over the teenage Charles face. So it's like a mix of the creepy smiles and the laughter. It's just such a cool crossfade effect thing. And what we learn later is that this kid who's poking the body with a stick is actually Eddie Caputo. I remember when this first aired, and I was like, "Wait, Eddie Caputo? I know that name." And it's the accomplice in the first Child's Play movie who had driven off without Charles, and then he went to his house and blew up Eddie Caputo. So that was like such a deep cut. And I think this flashback in particular really adds to this idea that Chucky wants to pass down the these killer habits. Like he wants to mold young people into killers. You know, he wanted to do that with Glenn slash Glenda in Seed of Chucky, and then in the flashback in Curse of Chucky, I feel like he probably wanted to do that with Sarah's daughters as well. You know, Barb and Nika, and here we see that with these kids, and of course in this TV series, he's trying to do that with Jake, and he also sees potential in Caroline. So it really feels like this expands Chucky's character and how he wants to make an army of Chucky's, not just as multiple dolls, but like multiple people m- molded into killers. And so he'd have his own legacy type thing. And the whole Peter Pan thing is quite fascinating because transferring a soul into a doll and trying to transfer it into Andy, you know, as a kid, for example, he's very much trying to stay young, much like what Peter Pan wants. You know, like we think about Peter Pan staying as a kid forever and that type of thing. So I really like the parallels that are drawn here. And when you think back to Eddie Caputo abandoning Charles Lee Ray in the first Child's Play film, it's another thing that adds to that line in Seed of Chucky where he's like, nobody leaves me. You know, he got abandoned by Eddie, he got abandoned by Tiffany, got abandoned by Sarah Pierce, like she rejected him, didn't want him. So like there's a lot more weight to that line in Seed of Chucky retroactively. It's really amazing how much stuff that gets released later can enhance how we look at a not so well received installment of the franchise. And I really like that. But yeah, back in the present, and of course, Charles leaves the foster home, you know, goes on his merry way because he's probably going to, doesn't want to get caught or whatever. Um, but more on that later. But yeah, I really like the actor that they got to play the teenage Charles Lee Ray here. Um, like I feel like the kid version that we saw in the first few episodes and this teenage version, like they add on to the evolution of the character and you know the trajectory and all that. I'm trying to look up like who played these younger versions of the character. Let's see. This is such a convoluted list because it shows actors who played uh, characters possessed by Chucky. Um, let's see. Brad Dourif, obviously. Hmm. Who's John Franklin? Why does it say Walkabout 1988 film? Okay, I might need to look into that later. Um, oh, maybe if I go to um, okay, yeah, this is way too convoluted for me to look at right now. But in the present, Jake and Lexi are at the house, you know, after it's very charred up and Lexi doesn't trust Jake. She wants him to lead the way, but he also doesn't know where her room is and they have this argument. She's like, I know you were mad at me, but you actually sent something to kill me. You were gonna kill someone, and he's like, I didn't want to kill anyone. I just wanted you dead. And like, you know, I feel like Lexi is missing the point about why he went after her. She's like, why didn't you just say something? And it's like, it's so obvious how hurt Jake was by the things that she did, you know? But yeah, Jake is also still at fault for sending a killer doll. Like, that's also a bridge too far. But as they're arguing, you know, they're on the next story as she falls, like the stair rail thing breaks and she hangs off the ledge. So, and you gotta remember this episode is titled Just Let Go. And then the Chucky doll shows up, half his face is melted. It's a really unique, creepy look, and he tries to stab Lexi, but Jake saves her, and he's like, "I'm not like you, Chucky. I'm not a killer." And so we get Jake finally turning away from that that potential of becoming a killer, and then an officer and as well as Kim arrive on the scene. Uh, Officer grabs the doll, and Kim is also with them, drives them back to the ICU. Um, Jake gets questioned by Kim, and Lexi goes to check up on Caroline. Um, and the officer also is carrying the Chucky doll, goes to the vending machine and tries to like grab something out of there, but eventually ends up I think he ends up in Caroline's room, like the room where she is staying in. And Chucky breaks the officer's spinal cord and then injects syringes into him and like stabs him with them. And the Chucky title card was made up of syringes and scalpels and for this episode. But yeah, he ends up killing this guy and gives the middle finger to Lexi, Jake, and Devin, who is now in the know. Lexi filled Devin in after he talked about the urban legends, and so now he's in the know. But at this point, I don't think that he knows that Jake sent the doll to kill Lexi, so he doesn't know that it was kind of Jake's fault that Oliver died. Um, and yeah, that is a thing that gets touched on is even though he sent the doll after Lexi, it's still his fault that Oliver is dead. I kind of wish maybe this would have been too heavy if they had shown Oliver's parents and their reaction to this. Maybe that would have felt too unsettling for the audience. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so this I don't know if you can hear all the noise outside. It's really distracting to me anyway. But yeah, so so Kim tried interrogating Jake, but it got cut short and the power went out. And yeah, so the episode ends with the officer getting killed and the Chucky with the half melted face, and with the middle finger. Um, and yeah, that's the halfway point for season one. I really like how this brings the characters like together as a trio now. Again, pieces falling into place, and how I really enjoyed how this explored Charles Lee Ray's backstory, filling in some of the blanks. Like for some horror franchises, when you fill in the backstory, sometimes it ruins it, but I feel like this enhances what we already know and have seen of the character in other installments. And the title "Just Let Go," it could also refer to Lexi and Jake letting go of uh, their contempt for each other as they join forces against Chucky. And I think this episode, um, it's more clear in this episode that Devin does have feelings for Jake, like Jake does for him. There is a moment where they're talking. He's like, "I'm glad you were safe," and all that. Whereas in previous episodes, you kind of wonder, like, "Oh, he just wants him for the podcast," or "Oh, is he trying to figure out if he's up to something? That's why he's recording him." And but yeah, this is the first episode where it feels like Devin does have those feelings for Jake. Um, Also, happy coming out day. Today's National Coming Out Day. So, yeah, those of you out there who are bold and able to um, be who you are, it can be tough, but you know, be yourselves. So yeah, I really liked this episode. I'm trying to think of how I'd rate this one. I feel like I've given a couple of these nines, and this honestly feels up there as well. Like I'm really enjoying most of these episodes so far, quite a bit. Um, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna give this one a nine as well for the reasons I mentioned. The evolution of the friendships and relationships and the backstory for Charles Lee Ray that adds and to other installments in such a cool way. So yeah, tomorrow I'll be talking about episode 5, which is titled, what was that episode titled? Um, it's called Little Little Lies. I think that's from a song. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at something real quick. Oh, so here are the actors who played the younger Charles Lee Rays. So we got Jacob Breedon as the in-suit performer as Chucky the doll. We got David Colesmith as young Charles Lee Ray. It says age 7, but I think he's supposed to be 8 in 1965. And Tyler Barish as Charles Lee Ray, 14 years old. So that's the one who was in this one. And that's not the final one that we get. There's another actor who plays a younger Charles Lee Ray in the next episode, but more on that tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in. Hashtag review Chucky, hashtag renew Chucky, hashtag save Chucky. Thanks for coming to Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, and see you all next time.